Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Summa Sales School. Today we have Cody Hayes joining us. Cody is Randy's business partner at Elite Roofing and a sales coach at the Roofing Academy. Now, Cody is responsible for building the high-producing sales team at Elite Roofing. He found the right people and gave them the right resources to be successful. Cody, thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So how did Randy get so lucky to have you? Because let's be honest, Randy might have some good ideas, but you're the guy that's making it happen.
I don't think it's luck. I think there's a couple different parts. Obviously, I think just he and I clicking on a lot of different levels. It was really a God thing. We met in church when we were really young, so to have a great friendship base turn into a great business base is equal parts luck. I would say for both of us, as much as just honestly just the way things were supposed to work out.
No, you guys are a dynamic duo. You guys have done amazing things, building a great culture, great company at Elite Roofing. Before we dive into the sales side of things, we'll be talking about building a high-producing sales team. Just real quick on the partnership aspect. There's a lot of roofing business owners that are actually listening to this portion of it, right? And then sales managers and stuff like that. Now, when you're looking for a business partner, how do you know if it's going to mesh? What things should you be looking for?
I think at the end of the day, you really need to make sure you find somebody that you work well with. I mean, if you can have somebody that you realize what you're good at and what they're good at, and you don't have a lot of overlapping things. Randy and I, for example, we have very different roles in the business. I mean, he's going to handle, very separate things than I would, but with our powers combined, right? Really make it so that we can run a great team, we can run a great business, and we can make sure that we have not too many hats because we don't overlap, but really make sure that we just focus on the best possible areas we can to succeed as an organization.
Yeah, you guys crush it. So, make sure if you guys are looking for a business partner out there, find somebody that is filling in those voids and those weaknesses for you guys. And it should work out just fine. Now, one of the first steps to building a high-producing sales team is finding the right people. This is a struggle that I hear all the time, and I'm sure you have too when you're working with people at the Roofing Academy. What tips do you have for finding good salespeople?
I think first and foremost, you need to define your culture, right? What do you want your sales staff to look like? Different people are going to vibe with different groups and dynamics. So really find out who those ideal partnerships are going to be. At the end of the day, it really depends on the style that you have as far as the structure inside your own business. So if you wanted to do a 1099 type scenario or full employees, make sure you know what you're looking for in there. For us, what we were able to do is just find great people. We pitch a lot that it's really going to be, higher character and trained skills. So you want to find great people that are going to, protect your brand and be a good ambassador of who you want to be. And then from there, you can really make sure that they learn the skills to be a good liaison of who you are and who you want to kind of put out into the community.
What's you guys' hiring process like? Because I know a lot of people, let's say there's a storm or something like that, some kind of event that happens where all of a sudden there's a lot of opportunity. I feel like they hire pretty quickly. And, you mentioned protecting your brand. Sometimes if you hire too quick, it might not be the best idea in terms of protecting your brand. Do you guys take a little bit longer in that process, or do you guys feel really good about, who you might hire so it is quicker?
I think for us, we definitely do a hire slow type process. It's hard to, again, find people who fit within the brand we're trying to build. The community we want to have inside of our sales culture. I don't do a whole lot of hiring because we are pretty selective, but at the same time, I think it kind of depends on the mindset. I feel like a lot of people feel like the more sales guys they get, the more opportunity they have to have sales out there. And I would rather have a much smaller, stronger team that has, is being given a better opportunity to go out and sell. If I have X amount of leads coming in, it doesn't matter if I have 5 guys or 50 guys. I don't want to dilute that pool. I would rather find the 5 guys that I know are going to sell as much as 25 guys would. And if I have a year I want to grow and I say, hey, I need to get X amount more, I want to see what the capacity is of the guys I currently have, and then start to slowly bring on maybe 1 or 2 a year, and really just make sure those are people that are going to stick with us for a long time and not really take away from opportunities by just doing, you got a heartbeat, you get a job, right? You can hold a clipboard, you can go out there and sell for us. It makes it so that you can protect your brand a lot better and just have really good people you work with.
So you're kind of telling me is it's not necessarily the number of sales guys, right? But it's kind of the quality of the sales guys. Because I think a lot of people, when they're looking to grow their business, they try to hire just a mass amount of salespeople. And that might not be actually the right answer, right?
No, I don't think so. And it's hard too, because I think it's hard when you think to yourself, okay, well, if I want to get, I don't know, let's just call it $1 million more, and I can just get 2 new guys that can do $500K each, right? At the end of the day, bringing on 2 brand new guys, is that really going to result in both of them selling $500,000 in that 1 year? Can you really put your time into 2 guys when I can get 1 really good guy that might be able to sell 650 and really just challenge the guys that I currently have to take on the bulk of the rest, right? They already know what they're doing. They know the brand. They know the industry. So if I can just rely on the guys that I've already hired, trained, and invested into to help generate more revenue, I can bring on 1 guy at a time, really just invest into him to have him be not only help out my business, but us help out him and be able to reinvest into his success. A lot of guys will go out and they'll say, okay, I need to sell $1 million more. I'm going to bring on 8 new guys, and 4 might be successful and 2 can make a real living out of it. And if you hire that many guys and 2 make a real living out of it, that means there's 6 guys out there really struggling. And I don't want to put guys in that position. I'd rather just get 1 or 2 guys, 1 guy really, and just say, okay, let's put everything into this guy. Let's train him. Let's build him and give him a true opportunity to grow.
So there's a key word that you use throughout that answer: invest, right? Invest in your people, right? So rather than trying to, hire a bunch of people, find someone really good and invest in their success, because it's going to make you more successful as well. Now, when you guys are doing the hiring process, which I know isn't very often, do you guys try to, use your network? Do you guys use like Indeed and job postings, or what's, a good way to be going about that process?
I think first and foremost is going to be your network, right? I mean, if you already have a group of good guys, you say, hey, good guys I know, do you know any other people who you think would fit in this culture? I haven't done a job posting in a very long time, and that's a very fortunate, it's an embarrassment of riches, right? We do have people that come to us because I think we have a little more of a desirable brand, or at least the outreach between what we do with the Roofing Academy and the podcasts and stuff like that. So people have heard of us, so we get people that come to shoot emails to me, and that's great. But I think if you don't have that outreach, you don't have that opportunity, start with people inside your industry, not just the sales guys, but the office staff, the production staff, even your crews. Do you know somebody that they know at least what that culture looks like? So can they find somebody in their own realm that might fit into what we're doing? Also, I'm big on the service industry. I learned a long time ago, if you see somebody you get good service from, you get good vibes from, you can at least have a chance to say, hey, do you like what you're doing? I can tell you care about what you do because I can see the way you do it. Hey, if you ever have a change of heart, you ever want to look into a different industry, here's my card. Not a lot necessarily call back, but the ones that do are, they're eager, they're hungry, they're ready to get after something new. And that could be a great way to at least have a portion of what you're looking for already fulfilled before you sit down and spend your time interviewing somebody.
I like that a lot. Looking at people who are doing great work in the service space. Because the thing is, I mean, roofing sales is such a great career opportunity. I mean, you could financially change their life. You know what I mean? If they do well working with you guys. So I completely agree with that. Now, you guys have a lot of, similar faces around, right? You guys are able to retain a lot of these guys, these salespeople. Why is that? Why have you guys had so much success with keeping on to good talent?
I think a recipe for our success has really been just, not hiring a ton of guys, right? Just showing that it isn't a numbers game for us, right? It is truly going to be a profession that you need to get something out of. We tend to find guys that have a little more on the table, right? I have very great success levels with guys who already have families, right? Who've already held great jobs. I love to see the younger up and coming hungry guys who just want to get a bunch of money. There's nothing wrong with that. But the guys who truly have stakes on it, right? That realize this isn't a part-time, let's dip our toe in the water. I can always tell when a guy comes in and says, hey, I would like to do roofing, but I'm currently doing this other thing. So I think I might juggle both. And we don't have any part-time sales guys. So if you can invest into the guys that are going to be there and make sure that they know we want them to be there, then you can go out and find new guys slowly. And by getting new guys slowly, you're showing the guys that are there, look, we're not trying to kick you out. We're not trying to dilute the pool so much where you're not being given an opportunity. Until I have a need for a guy, because all of my guys, like I said, their basin is full. Until their basin is full and we have a need to bring on somebody else to catch the work we might be dropping, I don't want to bring somebody else on. Hence the reason the guys that we do have stick around a lot longer, because we're able to make sure that they're always successful.
Now, okay, let's say you do bring on that new salesperson, right? You guys had an opportunity where you guys are just too busy, right? The basin's full. You guys need another salesperson, and you hire that person. What does that onboarding process look like? How do you train and onboard a new salesperson?
Again, it's going to be investing in that one person, right? I have tried in the past doing the mass hire, try to do almost a classroom setting. I learned the processes of doing the classroom setting, but I just learned you get a lot better results if you focus on just the one. So I kind of look at it as almost a roofing tutor, right? So instead of trying to teach to the class, I focus on the one guy, and I start from the very beginning of, it's an onboarding process of the first day is, let's get your 1099 going. Let's have you meet every single person inside of our industry. Really get a chance to do an onboarding with our office, so that way all of your payroll stuff is set up and your direct deposit, all the back end stuff that needs to get going first. From there, I'm going to go ahead and spend time giving them a full education on, what goes into a roof, what goes into the process, what questions are homeowners going to ask. That way, you're able to set yourself up as a professional to really make sure that your sales process is going to be a whole lot easier. Once they understand how a roof is installed and what the materials and everything like that look like, we're able to go ahead and go from there into the logistics of, what is insurance, what is Xactimate, what is the paperwork, how do you fill out contracts? Everybody should have a great company story. So a slideshow that kind of says, who are we and what are we all about? So I want to make sure all the tools we have available, whether it be our slideshow or sumo quote, or even our job nimbus, things like that. They can learn how our tools are all used. That way I can eventually lead into them having a chance to go into the field with another sales guy, right? Connected with the sales guy. Now they have the education of what a roof looks like, what the materials are, what they should expect to see throughout the sales process, what they should expect to see through the supplement process. I mean, really make sure we do a kind of a deep dive, but at the same time, it's kind of barely treading water, because it is a lot of information. I try to have somebody be in the office for 3 days, sometimes 3.5 days, depending on how much information is being retained. Then that will transition them into a field for usually about 3.5 days. So we're looking at a week of in office, then with somebody, right? So they get to see all the facets of everything. From there, they can then get kind of quick half days where it's like, okay, well, we've talked to you about door knocking, go out and door knock with somebody. You get leads or whatever else. That person's now going to watch you do the things that you've learned. So they do that. That way, the first one can be, you get a lead, they get to watch that seasoned sales guy do it. That job gets given to them if it gets sold. Next one is they kind of tag team. That next job also goes to them to learn how to manage. Last one's going to be the seasoned sales guy kind of acts like a new guy being trained. That new guy actually does the full gamut of a sales presentation. And the other guy just kind of sits back and hopefully watches them succeed, but also lets them fail. You know what I mean?
Of course.
He's able to give them real feedback on that. That would be the second week. So, I mean, I would go from very first day in the office to essentially being let loose and free. Easily within 2 weeks, you could have a guy completely onboarded, completely trained, and being given leads from the office.
Man, I love that. I mean, when you're listening to that, just think about how dialed in that whole onboarding process is, right? And how involved and how many resources and just time this person is getting. Too often in the roofing space, we see somebody get onboarded and then say, "Hey, here's a clipboard. Here you go. Good luck." Right?
Yeah,
So when a big part to what we talk about with retention is just making sure your people are successful, right? If you're putting your team and your salespeople in a position to be successful
yeah.
and reach their goals, they're going to feel confident. They're going to love working for you, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, again, I think if you invest into people, I like how you pointed that out. I don't, I don't
Yeah,
even make that like a trend, but I mean, honestly, just as a business owner, you want to invest in your business. As a sales guy, you want to
yeah,
invest in yourself. As a sales manager, you want to invest in the sales guys. So, of course, I want to give that new person I bring on every opportunity to be as successful as
yeah.
they can, and by doing these investments into the person as an employee, they're going to do the same level to help you as a company.
Amen to that. All right, so let's say you got this new salesperson onboarded. They're doing well. They're fitting in the team. The culture just works. They're happy. Now, one thing I want to talk about is tracking the success of this individual in your team. So, like, what kind of KPIs do you use for tracking your team success, and like, how often are you touching base with the team?
The simplest numbers for us are we're gonna track their self-generated leads, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
during a busier storm season, or depending on the sales guy, of course, you can talk to them about how many doors they've knocked, how their networking groups are going, just how
Yep.
do you produce your own self-generated leads? Because I don't want a guy to come into our office expecting just to be thrown a bunch of leads, right? I want it
Yep.
to be somewhat earned because I need people to actually be out there working, not just waiting on us.
Yep.
So I'd say that's first and foremost. Next one's going to be, how many opportunities they're creating as far as going out, right? So they created the self-generated lead, or they've gotten one from the office. How many of those turn into an actual opportunity to sell? So what actually has damage? Was it retailer? Was it insurance? Was it just going to be a repair? What does that look like? Of the, let's say, 10 leads in a week, are a certain percentage of those going to be an actual opportunity to sit down and give the
Mm-hmm.
presentation. So once you've given the presentation, how many of those that have real damage and you are able to tell about your company turn into signed contracts, right? So
Yeah.
success ratio, which is going to be how many jobs you go out to presentations you're able to do, and then closing ratio is how many presentations you give to actual contracts you get signed, right?
Yep.
So I want to get the success ratio, the closing ratio. Of course, I want to get the average job size. I want to get DSO, which is days sales outstanding. So from the contract being signed to the job actually getting closed out and paid out, what does that timeline look like? How many
Yep.
jobs a week are you getting turned in? How many jobs a week are you getting closed out? So those are kind of the more basic ones. But I mean, we look at collections, timelines. We look at how many jobs are currently sitting in like a do not collect, don't send out like a collection notice type status. I mean, we'll look at obviously their gross margins. We'll look at pretty much everything we can. And the guys who are coming to the mastermind this weekend, I'll have a full spreadsheet I can show you guys of all the metrics we chase on there. But we always try to improve on that just because we're very numbers based. And the more I can look at these numbers, the more I can have it kind of tell a story of every single guy, right? You could have
Mm-hmm.
your best sales guy, but he may be your best sales guy with the most, with the most jobs sold, but is he also the guy that has the most, self-generated leads, right? Is he a
Right.
guy who has a low success ratio, but is he also a guy who has the highest average job size, right? So there's different ways to really tell what sales guy is going to be good in what areas. And the guys
Mm-hmm.
who have the highest, average job size, those are the guys you probably want to send to the higher end
Yeah.
houses and stuff like that, right? Because they have a
Exactly.
great success ratio inside of larger jobs, as opposed to turning and burning a bunch of, $7,000 to $12,000 tiny jobs. But you could have a guy
Mm-hmm.
who has a whole bunch of jobs and they're all smaller. So I mean, it really lets you know kind of who plays the key roles. I mean, like a basketball team, right? You have the point guard, you have a shooting guard, you have all these different pieces
Mm-hmm.
that play to make a team, and it's the same thing with the sales guys.
And that's one thing that I love about your guys' sales team too. Is the collaboration factor. And Randy's told me stories that some people were better at, selling the deal, and some people were better at the back end, and they started collaborating and all. I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. To have a team of guys that are good at one thing or another,
Mm-hmm.
and also guys who want to see everybody succeed. Right. If you have a small
Mm-hmm.
group, you want everybody to win, as opposed to I think there's kind of that mentality. If it's like a large group, it's just who can be at the top. Right. Who's the best
Yeah.
guy there, and it's healthy competition, of course, but we just look at it from a different point of view.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so the biggest thing is you listed off so many different metrics that you guys track, and that allows you to have legit conversations with your salespeople, right? Because now you have numbers kind of back up that conversation and it kind of steer the direction of the conversation. Now,
Yeah.
with that tracking, uh, you guys are doing some with the CRM, but you guys actually kind of custom made some of your own spreadsheets and stuff like that, right? To kind of to organize all that.
Yeah, I mean, all the numbers come out of the CRM, but I
It
mean,
does.
everything gets tracked. I mean, there's a huge spreadsheet that Bree made that is just unbelievable.
Intense.
It's
I've
it's
seen it.
it's a progression, right? It's
Yeah.
fun because we started with the super basic, just kind of tallies in a column, and then it turned into spreadsheets that I'm literally incapable of making. And I like to
Right.
see the end result, and I'm glad we have a team that can build these things. But I mean, yeah, it's grown into something that it's kind of her baby, and she has continued to evolve with. And everybody knows how to use now, and it's just nice too because the sales guys, they really just need to put in how many of their self gen leads are in there, how many opportunities they have, how many appointments they did, and how many contracts they sold in. They turned in.
Hmm.
So everything else is actually just generated directly out of Job Nimbus, and
Nice.
we can just take out weekly and plug in from an admin point of view to pump out numbers for our guys to see and continue to have competition every week.
So what are you guys doing in terms of team meetings versus individual meetings? Like, is some of the conversations that might be a little more difficult, is that individual, or how do you kind of break that up in terms of what's a group setting versus what's an individual setting?
Yeah, so group things are primarily going to be, I mean, I guess we have a couple of things, but primarily
Hmm.
looking at groups being, we have a weekly online Zoom meeting, especially with COVID, and just our guys are kind of spread out. I want to make sure we get a huddle together every Monday. We do those all the time at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Once a month, we will do a live team meeting. Again, we had to miss a couple here and there because of COVID stuff, but now we're getting a little bit more back to normal. So
Nice.
we do a live team meeting at the office, and then I try to do at least twice a year, almost once a quarter if I can. I like to sit down with every guy and just say, hey, what does your pipeline look like? What difficulties are you coming to with jobs? What jobs are going to be turned in soon? What jobs did you kind of overcome obstacles with? Where jobs that we're waiting on, why are they in a waiting status? Really just kind of dive into each job and just see how things are going with the guys.
Hmm.
And that just gives me an opportunity to kind of reconnect. And I don't have to do those live. I'm happy to do those Zoom. I actually just did a number last week. I have one more tomorrow morning. It's just a good chance to kind of say, hey, how are things, professionally, but of course personally too. I mean, I like all the
Mm.
guys to work with. They're my friends, and I want to hear kind of how things were, and it's a good chance to really dive in with them a little bit deeper.
And I think that's a big thing in terms of sales, right? I mean, I've been in sales, my whole life. That's kind of my area that I like to live in.
Yeah,
And when you're affected negatively with negative impacts outside of work, it messes with your mindset. And to be good at sales, you got to have your mind sharp and ready, and
yeah.
no distractions on anything bad that's going out in terms of other things in your life. Now, let's say that you do have a guy in a sales slump. Those are the worst. Let's be for real. Especially if you're a good salesperson and you're just not clicking, you're not closing deals. Do you have any tips for people that might just be in that sales slump?
I think just having a chance to have somebody, hear you out, right? A lot of guys, I think
Hmm.
guys specifically, kind of do so much internalization, right?
Yeah.
They stuff it down, they say I'll handle it, and they don't really want to be vulnerable with information that might be affecting them in their personal lives.
Hmm.
I think from a professional point of view, I think if you can really dive into, like we mentioned, the metrics,
Yeah.
what are you good at, right? What sales have you had recently, and are you getting outside of your niche, right? I think
Yeah.
some guys are like, well, I'm working so hard closing all of these, $12,000 jobs. I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to focus on only, larger, let's say 25,000 and above. Well, you're going to sell less of those. So you end up having these longer term situations where you're not doing the sales that you're used to just from a sheer volume point of view. So then that kind of leads you into a slump because your mentality now is I'm not selling anything when you may be getting a couple of those larger jobs, but at half of the pace. So it feels slower. You know what I mean? So if you can go back and say, hey, this quarter last year, you sold X amount of jobs and they were all actually this size. How can we get back into that sort of method? Because that's where your real niche tends to be. You know, how many self-generated leads have you gotten? When was the last time you actually knocked doors? You know, how are your leads groups going? Are you getting anything out of that? Are they worth continuing with? And can you put more effort into that if you feel like you're not getting much out of it, right? Like doing that deep dive, I think can get guys out of those slumps. But I mean, again, it's tough because there's a lot of variables that go into it. Managers just need to be able to kind of pivot between everybody because there's so many different personalities inside of it. Outside of the group.
So, you know, when I was in a slump when I was doing inside sales, right, I had to do a lot of phone calls, emails, outreach, all that kind of stuff. I like to track more my activity, right? So it was like, how many calls did I have? How much talk time did I have? Do you like that kind of stuff too, to be analyzing that, or not really?
No, I think activity is what's going to lead towards momentum, right? I think if you are stale at the activity and you're having a hard time kind of getting out of the mud, right? Like I said, if you're able to say, okay, well, what I'm doing currently isn't working. Is what I'm doing really taking up a full, 8 or 9 hour a day? How much of me is now sleeping in later or just not being active on trying to actually hunt for opportunities? I'll tell lots of guys like, hey, first and foremost, if you wanted to get, leads immediately, try to, of course, knock doors is the age-old way to do it. But if you're not in a storm type area, it's not quite as fruitful. But, go back to all the people you have already done roofs for and just say, hey, I did your roof, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Winter is coming or it's been this long a time. I would love to come look at your roof, right? I would love to give you an update to make sure what we did is still totally intact and there's no worries. If nothing else, that's an opportunity for you to make yourself look that much better, even years after you've done a roof, and B, be able to say, hey, we have a great referral program, ask them why they chose to buy from you and what they like the most about your process. And whatever answer they give you, whether it be your price or your cleanliness of your crew or the timeline, whatever, use those same answers and say, hey, if you have any friends or family who want to have an inexpensive roof in a timely manner, they want to work with a great sales guy. Is there anybody that I could possibly talk to? Right? Just go directly from creating, no real movement into an opportunity to have people who can be a good warm lead for you.
All right. So now let's talk about resources, right? We talked about training. We talked about all that kind of stuff, making sure your team is successful by investing in them. Now, what things do you need to equip your salespeople to make sure they're successful, right? So whether they're knocking that door, they're making that appearance, they need that good, good company brand, everything like that behind them. They need tools, all that stuff. What does salespeople need in terms of backing and resources?
Of course. I mean, you said it right there, the brand. I think building a good brand is going to be one of the most key things you can do. I think an online presence is going to be huge because I think, most people, they can like you as a sales guy, but the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go online and look up what the company is all about, right?
They're going to look up Elite Roofing with 381 reviews.
they're going to look up what they can do. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't know where else to turn, right?
Yeah.
They can't call it. Like, you ever heard of Elite Roofing? Yes, we're a great company. We do good work. But I mean, how many people have actually heard of Elite Roofing unless we've done work or they've gotten a roof in the past or they know somebody?
Yeah.
So they're going to rely on what other people are saying online. So, I think having good branding, right? Online stuff, having, a good logo, having, everything being logoed. I mean, you will hardly ever catch me without some sort of Elite Roofing logo type shirt on. My truck is branded.
You guys got some nice truck wraps too.
We do, yeah. I mean, we want to make sure that when somebody shows up, we are, we are top notch. So if we can get a chance to really be that brand, it does go a long way. But as far as tools for our sales guys, we invest in making sure that everything's very easy for them, right? I mean, we're going to use we're going to use Eagle View and Company Cam and Sumo Quote, and we have Engage and we have Job Nimbus. I mean, I'm not even plugging brands of people I know, but these are who we really use every day because those are the tools that make the lives of all my sales guys that much easier. I mean, I rolled out Engage, and it was just like we went from me just building a PowerPoint inside of Google Slides into creating something that is just a much better tool, because I firmly believe that makes a difference between a guy showing up with a homeowner and us showing up with a homeowner. I just want to make sure we are just a little bit higher quality and a little bit better brand than anybody else.
Are you guys in the process of implementing Engage, or where is that at?
That's already built out. And
that's already built out.
Yeah,
really? What do you think? What do you think of it so far?
I love it. I mean, I'll be honest, I am not a savvy PowerPoint type person. So what takes me hours, honest, I had Summa actually build out our last Google slide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Killer job, and I loved it. But after I met with the guys at Engage, it was just one of those things where I'm like, all right, I can add some jet fuel to this thing. I can really make it so it works well with what our guys are trying to do. And the problem with the slides in general was that we were so focused on insurance type presentations, right? That's who the majority of our clients were, that my slideshow had, 10, 12, 15 slides, whatever, that were all insurance. And if I sat down with a homeowner for pure retail, I'm like, oh, sorry, ignore that. Just let me pass these slides. They don't pertain to you. And now with Engage, I can just choose the sections I want to talk about, and it looks a whole lot better. So
exactly
in that, and it's the tools that make the lives of my sales guys easier. Their professionalism come across a lot better. It really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to that word of investment. I think that a lot of people that we talk to that are in the space, and just business owners in general, right? Yeah. They don't want to they look at it as an expense rather than an investment. But the thing is if you go to any of these roofing trade shows and you look at any of the technology companies or any of these cool resources, I guarantee you Elite Roofing has probably implemented that into their company already, right? Because it gives them that advantage. And when the competition isn't using those resources, they're falling behind. Right. So that's one thing that you guys do a great job with, is being, hey, I'm gonna be the one that uses this first. I'm gonna be, a pioneer at whatever this new tool is. You guys did the same thing with Sumo Quote, right? We just had Ryan Chance on the Start Build Grow show. He said you guys were like one of the first 10 companies to be using the tool. Right. So it just shows, right? It just shows you're making that investment. But yeah, so I mean, do you have any other tips that so let's say if there's a sales manager, or if it's an owner that might be running their sales team, and they're really invested and they're thinking long term, do you have any tips on anything else that they can do that you've learned from your experience and building a high producing sales team? Because the biggest takeaway that people need to know is, you guys might not have the biggest salespeople, but when you're looking at, what they're doing in terms of production every year, they're hitting big numbers, right? Because they're efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just kind of hitting on the topics we've already discussed. I mean, really investing in your sales guys, right? Not diluting the pool to the point where they can't all be successful. Yeah. Keeping it a tight team. Randy always kind of uses the, we don't want an army, we want a sniper team, right? We want to make sure that we don't have a million people out there. Do what you can to protect your brand. Like I mentioned, that's one of the most important key components to people buying from your company, is being able to have a great brand to offer. And if you have a bunch of guys who aren't really what you want your culture to look like, what you want your brand and values to look like, out there tarnishing that, you're going to find yourself with a bunch of really negative reviews. And it's especially hard when you're a newer company, right? I mean, we could get a number of 1-star reviews today, and it wouldn't really affect us too much because we have so many that are 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
And when you are a new company and you only have, let's say, 15, 20 reviews on there, and someone goes on and leaves a 1-star review, that's going to put you from a 4.9 down to a 4.7 pretty quick. Right. So really protect your brand as much as possible. Again, making sure that you have great guys behind you. I don't often like to have guys hired on that have roofing experience, because they're going to kind of come in with a mentality of, this is how I've always done it, so this is how it should be done.
Right.
They aren't usually as much of team players with the sales guys that are on board. They're willing to learn, but I don't think they're necessarily willing to kind of take on these new tricks. So, I think finding guys, again, that higher character, train skills, and you're really going to find some great success in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Cody, man, you are a wealth of knowledge. You have so much experience. You guys have done a wonderful job building a high producing sales team, great company brand, everything like that. One of the most well-established, best rated companies in Colorado, which is, one of the biggest markets in the country. So if you guys want to learn how to do this, right? I mean, you got Randy for kind of some of the visionary stuff and leadership stuff. You got Bree for operations. You need to make sure you're checking out the roofingacademy.com and you're signing up for the platform, because you will have access to Cody too, right? He's been there, he's done that, right? That's the type of person you want to reach out to. So if you want to make a big impact in your company, remember, sales is oxygen, right? Yeah. So that's going to be key. So if you want more sales, if you want great people, and you want to make sure that they're staying with you, make sure you're hitting up Cody at the Roofing Academy.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Nick. And if you're going to be around for the mastermind event this week, I would love to meet you guys. If you want to get caught up with me, definitely feel free to catch me. It's Cody at theroofingacademy.com, or go on to You Can Book Me. It's Cody Hayes at youcanbookme.com. So happy to chat with anybody. I would love to help you guys build your brand and increase your sales.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cody.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Nick.